or the really bad news?
So Ahsoka nailed it. We have some bad news today, but before we get to the bad news, we're gonna start with the good news. So Adam, why don't you tell us about some of the show changes that are
Yeah.
coming up?
And I wanted to say this right off the bat. We started talking about this, before the new year rolled around. It was the first time we kind of. It's weird. We kind of awkwardly approached each other about it, because we both
Hmm.
started the Star Wars podcast, and so we. I know when I started thinking about it, I was kind of unsure, just because we're talking about really changing a lot of things, how we would both kind of react to that. But we both kind of casually brought it up one day, and that idea I think started blossoming into what we're going to talk about here. And just to be clear, right off the bat, we both love Star Wars, and Star Wars is always going to have a place on this show in the future in some form or fashion. But we also like a lot of other stuff too, and you and I are both getting the itch to start, you know, talking about different things and incorporating more genres, more franchises into the show, into what we talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And last week we had a Tolkien show. We talked about Lord of the Rings with Brittany from the Bosch blog and Michelle and Natalie from Force of Light Entertainment. And I think that was a good way for us to kind of test the water and see how non-Star Wars content on the show might do. And I think it did pretty well. We did that live, and we had a really good showing for our live chat, and it did really good in podcast form too. So very happy to see how that worked. And when we first started talking about this, we started talking about different ways we could do this, and at one point we even started talking about branching out and doing different content on the YouTube channel and just leaving the podcast alone. But for me, and I know for you, we both have families, we both have jobs, we both have lives. This isn't full time, unfortunately.
Right, right, right.
It's too hard to
If I
have.
could do this for a living, I so would.
Hey, maybe we'll get there.
Maybe.
But maybe not retooling the show after a year is it's probably not a great way to do that. But
Probably not,
here
but
we are.
yeah.
But it's honestly just too hard to do. It's hard enough to do one show, having the
Hmm.
time to record and edit and do everything that goes into making a show work and grow. Adding two shows on top of that we would have to continually do, religiously, just wasn't going to work. So, we started talking about the podcast being the best way to kind of incorporate this idea, into from a certain point of view. So, now that I mentioned the name of the show, how is this going to look? Kind of, kind of shaping this into however we would want it to look. To be honest, it's our show.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the idea is to be
um,
able to do what we want, to not
yeah,
be
right.
limited in any way that, we feel like if we wanted to, we could
Yeah.
talk about anything. And, so I like that.
Yeah, so everything else around the show is staying the same. The name of the show is staying the same. The website is staying the same. Your podcast feeds are staying the same. You don't have to update anything. Social accounts are all staying the same. We are in the process of updating some of the look and feel around things. So, you might be seeing a new logo where it's not, it wasn't an accident. I didn't forget to change the logo from the Tolkien this week.
Hmm. Hmm.
I left that up, for a reason. So,
Which I love, by the way.
yeah, I'm still really in love with that.
Yeah.
And but yeah, we are working on updating some of the look and feel of things like that. But so what will this show be going forward? I already talked about it. We both love a lot of different things, and at the top of that list is always probably Star Wars.
Hmm.
Last week we talked Tolkien. I know we both are very much into Harry Potter and Marvel, DC, Disney, ton of others, including not limited to The Matrix. I know is a big one for you.
Hmm.
James Bond is a huge one for me. Mission Impossible. We could go on forever just talking about stuff that we like. And it's not even limited to just film either. I don't see why we can't talk about TV. We've talked about WandaVision already.
Hmm.
Why not talk about WandaVision? We can do that with this. Uh, it, you know, Heck, books and music. Why can why not?
Yeah.
Um, our name has always really reflected what we believe in. So when we're talking about, even though it's a Star Wars quote, it really applies to everything that we watch. In that vein, we Josh and I have both talked about having this kind of recurring theme where we examine conflict in stories. So for example, we take let's just use Star Wars as an example, and we take the conflict between Anakin and Obi-Wan at the end of Revenge of the Sith, and we examine where what led to that, how Anakin's feeling, how Obi-Wan's feeling, what that conflict means, how it's resolved, that type of stuff. How does it apply to us as people? I think that's something that we're going to do, on a pretty recurring basis. Uh, but while that might become like our bread and butter type thing, again, we talked about limiting ourselves, and we don't want to limit ourselves to just that type of discussion. So, we're going to continue to pick a couple news topics, and we'll chat about them on the start of the show. We'll continue to do some reviews here and there. We'll talk about other things too. Um, it's kind of open season, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm really excited to be able to talk about a lot of different things, whether it's TV shows or movies, other franchises, it's definitely exciting.
Yeah, and the last question I think here is why, and why is a long answer, but it starts with this. There's so much in Star Wars to talk about, and I really think that we didn't even scratch the surface in 66 episodes that were solely dedicated to Star Wars. Um, you know, there's other shows that have been doing this for years, almost looking at decades even. Um, and there's so much more that we can talk about, and we will talk about that. It's not that we're done with Star Wars, like I've said before, and we're going to keep talking about that. But right now we're both watching WandaVision. I know that's something we both really want to talk about. For me personally, that Lord of the Rings chat was just so refreshing. It allowed us to break out of what we'd done weekly for over a year, and it just kind of felt really good to break out of that and to do something new. And as we started talking about this a month or two ago, and then this week when things got really serious, and we decided to just and before things went crazy in Star Wars this week, we started talking about this. And it just brought for me a new level of energy and excitement that I kind of wasn't really feeling so much lately. You do this week in and week out, and for me, I was getting a little bit burned out on just talking about one particular segment of things that I like.
Yeah, I think that it can definitely burn you out to just focus on one thing all the time. And me, I just love film. I love television. I love all of it. Star Wars is definitely at the top of that list, but um, I'm just a lover of film and TV and want to be able to talk about all of it. And I think yeah, and I like that you mentioned that this is something we've been talking about for a while now. This isn't just because of what happened this week, and we're, like you said, we're not done with Star Wars. We're not like,
Yeah, yeah,
it's been an ongoing conversation and
yeah.
an
I hope we're
ongoing
hammering that home because
decision.
that's like a resounding point. We're not
Yeah,
done with Star Wars, and we're not
right,
walking away because of anything that happened this week. It's just
right. And I also think there's somewhat of a drought in Star Wars content aside from the High Republic right now. So it opens up a little bit of room and a little bit of time and space to be able to talk about some
pun
other things.
intended.
But yes, intended. Yeah.
Yeah, but then we've danced around this just now a little bit, but then Star Wars this week, things happened in Star Wars this week, and that for me that weighed into what I wanted to do too. I don't know how much it weighed in for you, but it weighed in for me.
Yeah, and for me, this is the bad news that I was
Yeah,
referring to earlier. To me, this is bad news, and I do
I mean it's bad
recognize
news.
that to some people it's not,
Right?
but from my point of view, it
Yeah,
is bad
yeah,
news.
and right off the bat here, so we're talking about Gina Carano being released from Lucasfilm this week. And before we go any further here, you mentioned point of view. We want to make sure that we say this right off the bat. We have friends in this community that fall on both sides of this debate. Our podcast name and idea, for me, it would mean nothing if we didn't say right here that no matter how you feel about anything that happened this week, we absolutely respect that.
Absolutely.
Our commitment is, has always been to be able to respectfully disagree and remain friends, with everyone listening and interacting with us, and that's first and foremost in all of this for us.